Welcome to Vote 2017. I'm your host, Teresa Whipple, and today we are speaking with Cathy Baylor, who is a candidate for Edmonds School District Board of Directors, Position 4. Welcome, Cathy.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some various issues facing the school district, but first we want to learn more about you. Can you talk about your background history in the area and maybe talk about why you're running for school board?
Okay. Well, I've lived here for 49 years. I graduated from Linwood High School, as did my husband. We were high school sweethearts. We got married a few years later and had 2 children who are adults now. They both graduated from Edmonds Woodway High School and were at the Terrace Park Challenge program. Let's see, I graduated from from the University of Washington, where I got a BA with emphasis in education, music, and Spanish language and literature. And I actually did my student teaching over at Edmonds High School. It wasn't Edmonds
before it was
Woodway.
Edmonds Woodway,
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I didn't continue with teaching in the schools, but I, started to raise my family and volunteered in the schools with the kids when they were there for about 15 years. I was a really, really involved volunteer. I was there like 15 to 20 hours a week. I decided if I was going to stay home with my kids, I was going to do the things with the kids, so the house suffered a little bit.
Okay, well, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And taught piano, too, as well?
I didn't start to do that until after the kids were out of school.
Okay,
yeah,
very good.
Because
All right.
I didn't, I wanted to spend time with my children.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And
Yeah.
you also had some other involvement in the district, correct, after that?
Oh, I was hired by the school district as the head of the Indian education program. I worked for them as a tutor for a little while,
Okay.
and then later when the program director left, I replaced her.
Okay.
And worked there doing multicultural education and setting up programs for the Indian education program, hiring the tutors, that kind of thing.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, there are issues facing the school district, as I'm sure you know, being a parent and a former employee of the district. And what, as somebody who's seeking election to the school board, what are some of the important things that you would like to tackle if you were elected?
Well, I told you that I was in the Indian education program, and at that time that was part of the multicultural education department, which doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
But multicultural education is something that's been a passion of mine all of my life because I am Native American, and I've lived with an extended family who has suffered greatly because of racial injustice, and so I've always wanted to just get in there and fix that problem, and I've always thought that. Having that kind of opened a window, being in the multicultural department, that you can have multicultural education. You can have, for instance, an English class that teaches not just books from America, but books from Africa, books from South America, books from Asia, from all types of peoples in all countries, so that you can so that you can kind of step out of yourself and see how other people look at the world, and hopefully have more respect for people that come from a different place than you do. And so I think that would be a really good thing for the schools to do, because the kids are going to enter a global workforce and marketplace, and for them to be able to, for instance, try to understand the people from China when they're working with them is probably a good thing for them.
Yes, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the diversity, multicultural issues in a moment, but did you have some other priorities that you want to talk about?
Yeah. Of course, I'm a music teacher, and so that there be a robust music program in our school districts is very important to me. I've seen how much it can mean to a student, how just from a soulful point of view, right? That they can enjoy music and produce music, but also they tend to have a better academic skills and critical and creative problem-solving skills as well. And so I think it's a wonderful avenue for that. That's not that it's the only one, but if in the meantime you're giving them this wonderful gift of being able to produce music, all the better.
Okay, good. Very good. Well, and let's follow up a little bit on the issues related to diversity. I think everybody's aware of the fact that the Edmonds School District is becoming much more diverse than it used to be. I'm not sure of the percentages. You might be more aware of that than I am.
Well, the school district itself is just about little over 50% non-white now.
Okay, yeah.
When I first moved here in 1969, it probably was 98%
Right, yeah.
white.
It's
Yeah.
definitely undergone a shift, and of course that comes with it a lot of heightened concerns when it doesn't seem like that diversity is being supported or respected. And I know that recently, several months ago, there were a couple of incidents at Madrona KA School in Edmonds where there was some racial hate language left. There was some swastikas left. It was of concern to the families that it happened, of course. Everybody was shocked. But also, I think some people felt maybe the response to it, you know, letting families know what was happening and removing it and all of that was maybe not as fast as they would have liked. And, you know, as somebody who has kind of made that issue a priority, how do you see kind of moving forward that the district can support diversity issues and what can be done to make sure that those families feel supported?
Well, for one thing, I want to say that, just to kind of step back a little bit, that the district recently has commissioned a study in racial equity that goes across, very, very comprehensive, and looked at everything that they're doing and came up with 3 or 4 pages of recommendations of things to fix. So I think the district is doing an unusual amount of really positive movement to help racial equity. That's one of the things I'm excited about doing is getting involved in that, since that's my area. I'm like, oh boy, I really want to go in there and hold them accountable, you know, for making sure that they follow through with those recommendations. As far as the issue that you're talking about, I was pretty involved in that. I went to the school board and told them that I thought a couple times that I thought maybe they should have. I didn't think maybe. I thought they should have responded more quickly because, you know, I don't know if you about the issue about the chalk, where some parents tried to go to make it.
We should talk about that because that was an issue where parents went and actually wrote loving messages of support, and somebody washed it away before the students and families could even come the next day.
And I don't think that was intentional. I think it was just a lack of communication. But even still, there was no, like, for instance, I think it was the next day or even maybe the same day the Edmonds Diversity Commission came out with something in the newspaper, as did the police department, and the school district from the top never really came out with a, and there were some personnel issues I know that were involved. There was a teacher, a principal who was leaving and that kind of thing, but even still, I think that, you know, in an issue like this where you've got, you know, I'm from a population, I'm a Native American, I'm from a population that has experienced genocide, you know, and you get real touchy. You know, you think, wow, is this going to be a first step, and will there be a second step? We need to really take care of this right away and make it really clear that our school district does not stand for this kind of behavior. And so I think something from the superintendent is really what should happen. And I told her that. I said, I think, you know, I told the board that. Could we please have some kind of a policy that says, irrespective of what's happening in the building, because different things can be happening in a building, but if we always have a policy that always the superintendent comes out and says, this will not stand, we won't have this kind of behavior in our school district, then you know, it's just a better deal. And, you know, I do want to say that I went to the school board meeting, the last school board meeting, and they are being very responsive to the parents' requests and to my request also, my specific request, and they're drafting a policy to deal with that now. They're very, very responsive. It's a good board.
Good. That's good to know. Very good. All right. And another hot button issue that you and I had talked a little bit about before we started is the issue of crumb rubber, the use of crumb rubber infill on fields that the district owns, play fields and sports fields. And of course, you know, there have been concerns raised by parents that started actually at the old Woodway High School complex when they were putting some turf fields in there, and parents started doing some research and discovered there had been some anecdotal studies of soccer players where there had been some cancer discovered, especially among goalies who had played on turf fields. And of course, there's a lot of research still being done, but it's seemed to have been a fairly hot button emotional issue. And the Edmonds City Council got caught up in it and decided to ban crumb rubber fields in the city of Edmonds, and that is still ongoing and it is scheduled to sunset in February, but no decision has been made yet about whether they will lift that ban or not. And of course, the school board has so far consistently made a decision to use the crumb rubber infill in all of the athletic fields that have come up for needing them. Have you studied the issue at all? Have you formed an opinion yet on if this came before you?
I have formed opinion, and I really can't say that I support the use of crumb rubber at all. I think it's there are a lot of, it's not just Edmonds, there's places all over the world that are questioning the use of crumb rubber. I know I just recently read in Denmark, they're starting, I believe they've banned it there. That might not be true.
Yeah,
but
okay.
they're
We can
looking
fact
into
check
it.
that if you
They're
want.
looking into that, yeah. And so my personal belief is, you just have to be careful. I mean, you've got people's lives on the line. We don't know, a lot of times what causes cancer. That's what makes it so difficult, because it happens so many years after the exposure. But I want to say that, for instance, my dad just found out a few months ago that he has mesothelioma. I mean, he was working in asbestos all the time. It'd fall on him, when he was working as a welder in an industrial plant. And it was just, no big deal, just asbestos. Well, there was a big deal. He has a very debilitating disease right now that will probably kill him. So, and now we know that asbestos causes mesothelioma, right? But they didn't know that back then, and I just think you have to be careful. This is our children, and it's up to us, to make sure that they're safe. Now, that being said, there are other issues as well. There's a runoff from the crumb rubber that goes into the ecosystem, goes down into the swamps in the water, and there's little microscopic creatures in there that think that's food. Well, the scientists that came to the city of Linwood said that it's they say it's very safe. Has less bacteria or poisons than dirt. But when something is so inert and little creatures start to eat it,
Yeah.
they just fill up and don't get any nutrition. So there's a lot to be thought about, when it comes to this. I just think you're better off to make sure, because the cost is too high, when you're talking about potential health risks.
Right, and
Yeah.
that has always been the issue, is the balance between the cost at the time or the cost later. And
It is, but if you're the person with the disease at the end, why did they care about the cost?
yes, right, right,
I'm
yeah.
sick now.
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay, well, that's great, thanks for sharing that. One other thing that I think is, doesn't seem like it's ever going to go away when it comes to schools, but that is the issue of state funding. Yes, the McCleary decision, inspired over a very long period of time the legislature to finally put a solution in place, but people are saying, hey, it still wasn't enough. We're still struggling. Have you had a chance to dig into the budget at all and think about, kind of what might be next in terms of that issue?
Oh my gosh, what might be next? Oh, who knows?
Yeah.
I don't
But I
think
mean, in terms
anybody
of what the
knows.
school board might be doing to address that. I mean,
The school board itself, I don't think they've reached that point yet. They only really figured out a couple weeks ago. They had their budget
Right.
for the coming year. I know, as far as I'm concerned, my plan, because I see people come to the school board and they say, we've got this problem and this problem, this problem, this problem, and really it's money that needs to come into the system to fix them. I mean, it's been so long that there hasn't been enough money, that they haven't been fully funding, that now, after a while, there's neglect, there's just deterioration in the whole system. And so that has to be replenished. I kind of don't think that McCleary is going to do that this time. Because just of what I'm reading, a bunch of the other school districts are starting to come with their analysis, and they're saying, we don't think we're going to have even as much money as we had before, some of them. That's what they said in Tacoma School District. So what can the school district do about that? I mean, it's not that the state gives them the money; they can't make it out of the air. So for my part, I feel that the response is to just get really busy with the legislature, you know, to become very active. I've been pretty active already, but to become even more active and try to get some of the people, some of the parents, and some of the teachers who are so concerned involved as well, and say, look, call Olympia. You've got to call these people and get them to make some changes so that we can fix this problem.
Yeah, okay.
So.
Very good. All right. Well, we've now come to the part in the program where you are able to address the voters directly and tell them
Okay.
why they should vote for you. So have at it.
So I think you should vote for me because I have lived in the school district for 49 years, and I've been very active as a volunteer and as a parent and as a teacher and as an activist in education during that time. It's important to understand what a school board does. A school board is a bridge between the community and the schools. And so the school board crafts a vision that and then tells the superintendent and the schools go forth and educate our children according to this vision. And therefore, the tie and the understanding of what the community is all about is so very, very important. And because I've lived here for 49 years and worked in the school district and all those other things I've already told you about, I think that you should vote for me.
Very good. Well, Cathy
you.
Baylor, thank you so much for coming in, and I wish you the best of luck in November.
Thank you very much, Teresa.